We should write Sesame Street.
I feel like we do a good job.
Yeah, I do have this. I think it would be funny, right, if just one episode of Sesame Street that airs only once and is then destroyed forever afterwards would be great if they did that with like an X-rated Sesame Street. Just like one Monday morning at like 6 a.m., you just play an X-rated episode of Sesame Street where Oscar the Grouch's calling everybody like a bitch and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think that would be great. That'd be hilarious as just like a secret Easter egg for everybody.
You play it, okay, because we have to like avoid children at this hour, right? So we played at 6 a.m. on New Year's Day. So the drunk people are like, oh yeah, let's watch Sesame Street. That'll be funny. And then they start watching it. It's the funniest shit they've ever seen.
Yeah.
And then delete it after that. Oh, if only we had come up with this idea before cell phones existed, so people couldn't record it. And so it just become one of those things that like people are like, did you see that? Like they're not sure if it actually happened.
Yeah, like a Mandela effect sort of situation.
Yeah.
That would be great. If only we lived in a time before cell phones.
Yeah.
But you know what we do live in a time of, Jacob? Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. I'm your host, Charles Long, and with me, as always, my co-host, editor, producer, co-pilot, gunner, navigator, orator, and podcasting associate, Jacob Gloth. How you doing today, Jacob?
I am swell, Charles, and this post-Christmas podcast.
Yeah, post-Christmas.
We're still, I think, in the current year, 2024. We haven't passed over.
No, not yet. We've not passed over to the next world.
I think it was last year, maybe it was the year before, where we had a podcast come out on Christmas Day and a podcast come out on New Year's Day. And on the New Year's Day podcast, we said Merry Christmas because we had recorded, I think, on Christmas Eve or something. And then on the week after, we had said New Year's, which was Happy New Year's, which was like, a week into the next year.
Oh God, we've been doing this show for a long time, and we have not gotten better at it. I'll say it.
When it was terrible at holidays.
We really bad.
Now we are. Now we're good. We're saying Merry Christmas. When it's a couple days after Christmas. I think it's the third.
Yeah, it's even better. Or Happy New Year's or whatever's closest. Yeah,
whatever's closest.
We don't care. I don't care about New Year's or Christmas. It's that weird week and a half between New Year's and Christmas. I know it's not a week and a half, but it's that weird couple of days between Christmas and New Year's where everything just is kind of like paused because they're two big holidays, but you also like have to go to work and school and stuff in between, and it's like, why?
But you don't have to go to school. What are you talking about?
I don't have to go to school. I had to
go
to school. I go to school. I just show up. Nobody's there. I just fuck around.
Oh, okay. Well, you're crazy, but
I hide
normal people don't go to school. I mean, like I had to work during this period last couple of years, and it's weird. You feel like you're not supposed to. You feel like it's heretical, like it's against the law.
A little weird. I have to work tomorrow. I mean, I had to work on Christmas Eve, and I have to work tomorrow. It's, what are you gonna do? Gotta pay the bills somehow.
Go to work, yeah. Gotta do something.
Gotta do something.
But speaking of paying, well, we don't make any money. But I'm speaking of things unrelated to paying the bills.
Yeah.
I have a pitch this week.
Ooh. With a title that I came up with.
With a title. What was the title again?
Friend-in-law.
Friend-in-law. This was... Yeah. There was only one way I felt like I could take this.
Uh-huh.
What do you think that was? I mean, you probably know what it is.
Well, I had actually two ideas, right? The first idea was like you marry into a like the main character marries into a family, and there's just kind of this boisterous, funny, like kind of wild card character who's sort of a family friend. And at first, our main character and this family friend don't get it like along at all, but they go on some adventure, right? And they grow to become friends. But I was also thinking you could also have like some sort of a weird clause in a relative's will. So you have your main character who's kind of like greedy and selfish, right? And they have they get their grandparents' inheritance. And in the will, it says you will only receive this massive inheritance if you like befriend this person, right? And so you kind of have a friend-in-law, like it's a lawful friendship. And so, you know, it's kind of like there's a movie like that where they take like people to a dinner, and it's like dinner for schmucks or something like that. Where it's like at first our main character's kind of using this
I know what you're
person.
talking about. They all have to bring like loser friends, but then they become better friends.
Yeah.
Is Steve Carell in that movie?
I think so, and like maybe Rainn Wilson or Zach Galifianakis or somebody weird is in that as the loser friend, and they all have loser friends, you know.
Yeah.
And then our main character like slowly like loses their, you know.
Thing to do.
It's a fucking horrible thing to do. You'll see that in like oh my god, it'd be great. We both know who we're inviting.
We bring each other.
Oh, that'd be awesome. We bring each other to loser friends. Like, oh, this guy, he's still in school. He's 24.
They're like, who's the loser you brought? I brought him, and then he's like, he brought me, and then it's
and it's we're the only people who agreed to do this, so it just ends up with us having dinner together, and it's like, this is a little sad.
This is sad. This is really sad.
And then our main character, you know, grows a conscience and kind of becomes, you know, actual friends with this guy. You know, that was always that's the inevitable ending of the show Friend-in-Law in my mind, is people actually become real friends. But what'd you think of? What was your idea?
It's more along the vein of the second one. We'll get into it. I think the reveal will be at the end of the pilot. So there's two central characters of this. We have Blake Weathers, who is is John Hamm in his early to mid 30s.
Okay, Mad Men John Hamm.
Maybe a little. Well, Mad Men John Hamm, I always picture like he looks. I mean, I think he's probably, they say in the show, he's probably mid 30s or whatever.
Yeah,
I haven't seen Mad Men.
He's meant to be 19 years old.
This is like a little younger. Like picture. Have you seen 30 Rock? 30 Rock John Hamm.
30 Rock John Hamm.
A bit younger, you know. Mm-hmm. Hair's a little bit, you know, longer, not as
he's not as well
kept, but still fairly well kept.
Still a very handsome
This is a
man.
hyper charismatic man, Mr. John Hamm here, Blake Weathers.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's an attorney. Picture like I'm gonna say Better Call Saul, but he's not that type of attorney. More like Harvey Dent style district attorney. He's not the DA. He's an attorney under the DA.
Yeah,
but he's got kind of the guy that's gonna. You know, he'll do anything to get the case through. He's not gonna play strictly by the rules.
He's handsome, but he'll bend the rules. He won't break them, but he'll bend the rules to get his case won. You know?
Yeah. Very ruthless, hedonistic, upper class socialite kind of guy. But he's got like a humor side to him, and he's not unable to associate with the common man. Like he's you know, he likes sports. He probably has more in common with the regular folk than he does the higher up people, but he's got the personality where he can hang out with them.
Yeah, he gets invited to the owner's box, but he doesn't have tickets to the owner's box, you know? He has to be invited.
Yeah. So he's not like old rich. He's like new rich, kind of, is the idea. Then we have Tyke Porters. Tyke Porters is Donald Glover in his like early to mid 20s.
Okay,
so,
community Donald Glover. Yeah.
This guy's a loser loner who smokes weed all the time, and he's okay. So he's like at the age where he should be in college, and his family is of like the wealth status where he could go to college, but he's decided to take a gap year, which is turned into 3 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
still not really sure what he's doing in his life, and his parents are starting to get to the point where they're like annoyed that he hasn't figured out what he's doing, and all of his friends are so far into college now, they're gonna be graduating soon, so it's like, it's not even like he can just go and join them if he wanted to, but he doesn't even really want to go to college. That's kind of the situation.
He's one of those guys who hangs out at the dorms but doesn't actually go to the school. He's just always around people's dorms because he's friends with people, you know? Those guys, creeps.
Yeah. And he still kind of hangs out around, like, his old places he'd hang out in, like, high school. Like, he goes to the same diner.
He goes to the same diner.
He used to go to.
And he drinks coffee.
All the losers would go to the same diner that they went to in high school.
Fucking freaks.
Anyway, episode 1, titled Friend-in-Law. We open with Tyke in bed at his mom's house. He's clearly too old to still be living at home. And his family resents him a little bit for it. His stepdad is downstairs and his mom is gone. He slyly mentions his stepdad slyly mentioned a couple of job applications that he's picked up and he's seen in the newspaper. And he also mentions possibly taking classes at community college. And he's just casually saying this stuff as he's flipping through the paper. Clearly has been looking at this while Tyke's been upstairs sleeping until noon. But Tyke says that he's going to meet with the band. And as he's walking out the door, his stepdad yells that you can't call smoking in a garage a band. He also yells for him to take his hemophilia pills. I don't really know what the pills are actually called for hemophilia, but I think they're like hemoglobin pills, something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, though. They're the pills that make, so it's, your blood's...
Yeah, it make your blood work properly.
Cut. Yeah. So Tyke goes down the street until he reaches Brett's house. Brett's his friend who's in college, and he meets up with the rest of his band. Brett's dad is yelling at him as he leaves the house. So he says that they should go smoke in the alley since he wants to get out of the house. They light up and all the others are talking about college and what they're, doing in their life. And they ask Tyke, and he says that he's just, doing another gap year so he can figure things out. The other guys just sort of, they clearly think that he's kind of a loser, but they don't really say anything. They're like, okay, yeah, sure.
He's the guy who has the weed, and so nobody makes fun of him. Nobody calls him out for being a lame ass, but
well, in this situation, it's gonna be Brett that has the weed, and that's important.
Okay.
Tyke comments how good the weed is, and Brett says that he's making a little bit extra money on the side now, so that he can afford it. And as Tyke asks what he's doing, a cop pulls up, and its siren goes off, and all the boys except Tyke run, who is confused and yells. He's like, "Hey, it's legal. We don't need to run away from the police. This isn't like, it's not like high school." And he's sort of laughing at his friends as they run away. And the cops come up to Tyke, and they're like, "Yeah, well, it is legal, but you still can't smoke outside on public property." He's like, "Oh shit, okay." And he apologizes. And they say that they're gonna let him go because they feel bad for him because all his friends ran away. And it's only just a fine for smoking outside anyway, on public property. And he starts to walk away, but they call him back because he left his bag, and he turns back to see that it's Brett's backpack. And as they pick it up, the zipper is slightly open, and when he grabs it, the zipper flies all the way open, and a ton of cocaine just falls out of the backpack.
Oh, that's not a good look for Brett or Tyke.
Tyke, yeah, Brett's gone. Now we hard cut to a swanky apartment in the center of downtown. Blake Weathers, so John Hamm, 30s, handsome, climbs out of a bed, and there's a hot blonde we can see just beside him in the sheets.
Yeah.
He makes a cup of coffee and works out like American Psycho style before he gets dressed in a very nice suit. She gets up and he gives her a cup of coffee, and she says that she's going to do her best to puff up his little homicide case in the news to help with his jury pool. So he's clearly doing some deals on the side here, trying to do everything he can to maximize his case and help him get a good verdict.
Yeah.
Now he takes off to work in a Jaguar XKRS. I specified the car because I've been watching Top Gear a lot. And on one episode of Top Gear, they mention this car and says that there's absolutely no reason anyone should buy this car. So
I'm looking SKRS.
XKR-S.
Okay.
It's a nice looking car, but it's very expensive for what it is. It's a car that you buy because you don't know what good cars are. If you didn't know anything about cars, but you wanted a nice car, you
bought a really fancy car, and the only thing you looked at was the price tag.
Yeah, I'm kind of trying to get that impressive. So, also Jaguars I feel like I always associate Jaguars with kind of sleazy dudes. So.
Fair enough. I always associate them with old men. So, I guess that works. If you're a young man driving a Jag, I think you might be a bit of a prick. So that makes sense that you would associate John Hamm with that.
Or at least this version of John Hamm.
This version of John Hamm, not real life John Hamm, who's probably a very nice man. Except for the time he set that guy on fire.
He set a guy on fire?
Yeah, look it up if you're interested.
Was it by accident?
Well, he didn't get punished for it.
Yeah, they never get punished. That's how it works.
Exactly.
Anyway, he arrives at City Hall where he chats with Damon Clark, the district attorney. The two are old friends and chat because they're chatting, having a nice time. And before he goes, he asks Blake to take care of a tricky case for him. The mayor has asked him to cut down on drugs in the city, and they just caught a major dealer. But they've caught into a bit of a sticky situation with an uncooperative judge and a little issue with the cops. So there's a bit of a flimsy case.
Mm-hmm.
Blake says that he'll take a look at it when he speaks with the officers to find that they accidentally brutally beat up the kid after finding a load of cocaine in his bag. So when they were putting him in the car, they smashed his head against the top of the car, which, they normally do. There's, a way to emphasize, that they're a bad guy and they're the cops. They're trying to feel tough and they want to knock their head against the
show them who's boss,
the top of the car, which, they shouldn't be doing. But they didn't realize that the kid has hemophilia. So when they did this, he started bleeding profusely.
Yeah.
The kid starts bleeding and they're like, you're fine. And then they see more blood and it doesn't stop. And so the cops start panicking. And they rush the kid to the hospital, who's like nearly bled out by the time that they get there. And after a while of not believing them. So they'll like smash his head against the car and they'll like both get in. And the kid says that he's bleeding. And they're like, you're fine, it's only just a little bit of blood. And then the
they
cop
stop at a McDonald's.
Look back. He'll be like, Jim, it's a lot. It's like a lot of blood. There's like, and they'll both look back and we'll see the kid in the back seat and like nearly half the side of his body is just covered in blood.
They stop at a McDonald's, they get a McChicken, right? They're eating in the parking lot. They look back, he's like, and they're like, Jim, there's a lot of blood. Here, kid, use this quarter pounder to staunch the bleeding.
Yeah, it's a quarter pounder on the side of his head.
Oh, God, I'm gonna die with a quarter pounder in my head.
And so the cops, they take him to the hospital, and they're explaining this to Blake, and they also tell Blake that the backpack, the kid says, was also his friend's and not his. And Blake quickly cuts them off and asks them if they saw his friend with the backpack, which they say no, but the backpack says Blake on it. And he's like, no, don't, just shut up. You don't know that. You didn't see the kid with the backpack. You don't know whose backpack it is. He was the only one there. It's probably his backpack. It was like convincing the cops that it's this kid's backpack, that it's Tyke's backpack. And he tells them not to worry about the blood incident. He takes out a knife, and he tells them to file it under evidence as under the kid's possession.
Oh.
They're to say during the trial. Now, he's like, they're like, well, we can't lie under oath. And he's like, no, you're not going to say, I'm not going to ask you about this. Don't worry. We're just going to file it as under the kid's possession and evidence, and I'll do the rest. Mm-hmm. And they argue a little bit, but then he starts, pushing it a little bit. He's like, do you want to lose your jobs? Do you want to lose your jobs over this? You just beat this kid up. I mean, I could bring this up to your, the commissioner, and you'll both be out of a job. And they're like, okay,
Do you want to lose your pension? Really? Over this kid, you want to lose your pension? You want to make sure that you and your wife are flipping burgers until you're in your 80s? Come on. Just put the knife in the back.
You're gonna do what we say. You're gonna, listen to us, do a favor for the mayor. Yeah, maybe things could be looking good for you. Maybe you can get that sergeant promotion.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of stuff. Now, back in his cell, Tyke has a massive bandage over his head, and he's still a little high. And a cop is outside his cell teasing him with the weed and smoking it. So now this cop is just smoking his weed outside of his cell.
Yeah.
And as he's doing this, his mom and stepdad show up to pay the bail. But upon seeing him and hearing about the cocaine, they tell him that he's throwing his life away, and that this is for the best. And they talk to like the family therapist, and they said that maybe prison could be good for you. And after hearing this like terrible sad sob story, the cop, who was just teasing him with his own weed, feels bad and offers him the joint. Tyke says no, but then takes it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So he's just sad, smoking weed in his cell.
Yeah.
Back to Blake, who's in his office, when one of the cops bursts in and tells him that he can't do it. He can't plant this knife in. He's too nervous. He's shaken. And Blake, tries to convince him, but fails. And so he just takes the knife. He's like, fine, I'll just do it myself. And he sneaks into the police station and plants the knife. And as he's doing it, he comes up with an idea, and he pretends to be Tyke's attorney. Pretends to be his attorney. He goes into his gets a conference with Tyke, make sure his fingerprints gets on the knife by telling him if he's seen this knife. And the cops are saying that he had this knife, and he's like, no, I've never seen it. And he gets Tyke to pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, boom, got his fingerprints on it now. And he takes the knife away. He's like, "Don't worry, I'll make sure they know that you didn't. This isn't your knife. You've never touched it." And he files it under evidence as he leaves. But in that conversation where they were talking and he was trying to convince him to grab the knife and pretending he was his attorney, they bond just a little bit over sports and sort of family issues. They both have kind of a troubled family history.
Yeah.
But Blake is, he's not gonna throw away his case and not prosecute this kid because
they're like the same.
He's trying to
football team or whatever.
Yeah, because they got the same sports. I mean, they live in the same city. Of course, they like the same sports team. But Blake's still gonna do what he needs to do for his job. At trial, Blake has some misgivings about it, but he goes ahead with the plan. The judge gives the guilty verdict, but unexpectedly, the judge suspends the sentence, which confuses Blake, and he then sanctions Blake for posing as the defense's counsel, which he sort of got from the cross-examination, because Tyke is going to be like, well, I'm confused. Which one of them is my attorney? I thought Blake was my attorney. He visited me. He's like, I've never seen this. Blake's gonna be like, I've never seen this kid in my life. And the judge is gonna sort of note that.
Yeah.
And so he sanctions Blake. Now I went over sanctions in a class, and the judge is technically allowed to do whatever they want for a sanction. There's no set rules for how a judge can sanction an attorney. So normally what they do is they just suspend your law license or take it away. So he's going to suspend Blake's law license for 1 year, and because Tyke no longer has a guardian because his parents abandoned him, he's going to assign Blake as this kid's legal guardian. Boom, friend-in-law.
But I thought he was old enough to be in college. Why does he need a legal guardian?
It's like how Britney Spears had a guardian.
Okay, a conservatorship. Okay, that makes more sense.
Something like that. This kid's a risk. He got his. He clearly needs somebody to watch.
He needs
him.
some guidance.
That's what the judge thinks.
Yeah,
he needs something, and now he's got a friend-in-law.
Oh, that's fun though. That's a fun way to start it. I like it.
So that's what this show is going to be. These two legally mandated friends, essentially. One now going through a downward spiral in his life because his whole career is collapsing because he got suspended from law, and he's going to get a lot of.
He's calling up the blonde chick from the.
Career, obviously.
Yeah, he's calling up the blonde chick from the opening scene with him, and she's kind of like, "Oh, yeah, maybe we can get dinner some other time."
Yeah.
Bye.
That's gonna happen in episode 2 in a second. And things for Tyke, they're not great, but they can't really get too much worse. He's just not living in his parents' house anymore, essentially.
I assume he's moving in with John Hamm into the bachelor pad.
So, episode 2, Blake is devastated. He's cleaning up his desk at work. Damon Clark, the DA, and his old friend won't even speak to him. He gets back to his apartment where the reporter from episode 1 is, all dressed up. Blake expects that she, wants all the gory details about his, downward spiral. And he's like, sort of not like, he's like, you're just out. You're just one of the crows coming after me now. But she doesn't even care about him and his story and all that stuff. And she's just here to pick up her hairdryer.
Yeah, you're old news.
To him is even worse. To not be news or to be is worse than being bad news. He would have rather been bad news. His whole ego is getting destroyed by this. So Blake is left all alone. He pours a glass of whiskey and he starts to cry a little bit when Tyke from the corner of the room asks if he has any milk for his cereal. Blake completely forgot that Tyke was there.
Yeah.
And kind of lives there now. And Blake tries to blame him for all the incidents, but he kind of knows deep down that's all his own doing, and he kicks Tyke out. And Tyke wanders around, finding that all of his friends are gone, and they were told by his parents to avoid him, so he goes to all of his friends' houses asking if they're there. They've all gone back to college, and they're, getting the door slammed in his face. Nobody likes him. Even when he goes back to, the old diner that he hung out with in high school. They won't even... The manager who was previously nice to him is just gonna like ignore him and pretend that he doesn't exist. They won't even serve him because they heard that he's a cocaine dealer. So his whole life
drugs
is
in my neighborhood? No way, son. Get out.
Yeah, not good.
Yeah.
Not good opinions for Tyke. So Tyke, still wandering around. Blake likewise can't find anyone that wants to associate with him anymore, and he can't even get a paralegal job. So he's like going to interviews and stuff, trying to get any sort of job in the legal field, but because he can't work as a lawyer anymore because his license is suspended for a year. He can't even get a consulting gig. So he's crying even more and starts drinking at a bar. And that's when Tyke shows up at the very same bar, and he cheers him up with the blunt, and the pair bond by, getting plastered and running around the city, getting drunk, and then going through Blake's cool apartment and basically trashing it. And the episode will end with Blake's landlord knocking on the door to ask about the rent.
Wah, wah.
Yeah, so now we got another problem. Next episode's going to be about, Tyke trying to help Blake raise up money. So they're going to start giving legal advice to people so that they can make money.
Yeah.
And it's going to slowly, to sort of irreputable people. It's going to start with, Tyke's old classmates who are getting busted for, some, shrooms or something like that.
Yeah, possession charges and shit, and drunk driving and stuff like that.
So he's going to give, minor legal advice to these people. And it's going to slowly spiral into them working for the mob, which they don't realize until it's too late. And the only way out for them is to fake their own deaths, which they do, super dramatically. But then the mobsters obviously see that they fake their own deaths, and they're like, you could just leave at any time. You don't need, this isn't like the movies. You don't have to
Dude,
die
you do know we have actual lawyers, right? Real lawyers on our payroll. You're not even a real lawyer.
Yeah, we have benefits and everything. The only reason we would, kill you is if you were, associated with the police or, the DA or something.
Yeah.
And this is when Blake's like, oh, yeah, no, that would be crazy if I had any past or current associations with the DA.
Yeah. And he's like, the only reason we hired you was because I'm a big John Grisham fan, right? That was it. That was the only reason I got you involved in this in the first place. You can go if you want. I'm not gonna stop you. I don't care.
We just got you because you're you could give legal advice and we don't get charged $300 an hour. It's just cheaper.
We've been paying this kid $150 an hour in blunts. That's it. It's fine. It's easy. They leave, and the one of the mobsters just snatches the weed away, and Donald Glover's character is like, oh man, it's good. It was good weed. Oh,
damn, poor kid. That was the last of my episode ideas, but the show is basically just about the slow bonding process between these two friends.
Yeah,
where Blake is going to end up sort of acting as a big brother to Tyke, and Tyke is teaching Blake to be less of a ruthless asshole,
less of a stick in the mud dickhead. They definitely would spend one episode getting drunk, and then the Valentine's Day episode, they go over to each of their respective girlfriends' houses and try and win them back, but it's a failure because they're both drunk and high the entire time,
Yeah.
And the girlfriend, Tyke's girlfriend, is his ex from they stopped dating the summer before she started college. They haven't been dating for 3 years, and he's just like, take me back. I have to live with this fucking dusty ass dude. What the fuck? And
or also they could do a thing where they try to pretend their lives are going better than they are currently.
Yeah.
Tyke tries to pretend he's in college and he's doing really well.
Yeah.
So he's dressed up. He's using John Hamm's old suits, and he's pretending things are going super great for him. And Blake is he's pretending he got a job, he's doing charity and stuff, and he's completely changed and things are going better for him. And the reveal at the end will be that Tyke the whole time his girlfriend was really just after kind of just a her actual boyfriend at the time is just sort of a schlubby loser guy, exactly what Tyke is.
Yeah.
He didn't realize that he could have just acted like that. And she's like, oh, sorry, I don't know. It's good that you've got your life together, but I'm just not really interested in that at the moment. I kind of just want
I want to take care of I want to take care of a man-child. And Tyke's like, fuck, shit.
I I just want to smoke weed. You know, that's all I want to do. And he's just
Yeah.
like, this is exactly what. No, I'm trying to tell you. Trust me. Like, that's what I do. I'm not this. This is just, you know, none of this is me. And he gets that, like, you know.
Yeah, and she's like, sure, buddy, it's okay, you know? It's really good that you're doing well. I'm sure some nice girl will come along and swoop you off your feet. Just not me. I'm looking for someone who's relaxed and cool, you know? Someone who's not really gonna get in my way, right? And he's just fucking,
and for John
he's so
Hamm's
angry.
For
And
Blake,
ends with,
we could do, like,
mm-hmm.
His girlfriend will find out that, or he'll find out that his old ex-girlfriend is dating a new guy who's literally just George Costanza from Seinfeld. Like, he's just like this fat loser who lives with his
balding
parents
dude
and has got nothing going on in his life.
Yeah.
And she's like, it's not, it's good you've got your life getting together, but I kind of just want to, like, help somebody. Like, I want to help somebody get back on track. I don't really want somebody that's all, I want kind of like a project. He's like, wait, no, I'm a project. I don't actually have a job. I have like a mandated friend. My apartment sucks now.
My only friend.
Place.
My only friend is a man who was given to me by the government. I don't know why.
He just smokes weed all day. I smoke weed all day. I don't do anything. I need my life to get together. I need somebody to help me, please. And she's just like, John, Blake, please, come on. Like,
do you know what the Zaza is? I didn't, and now I smoke it every day. Yeah. Holiday special. Speaking of the holidays, maybe we have a Christmas episode where they try and go to each other's families, but each other's families they're like each other's families for Christmas, and they really can't stand it, and so they just come back together and they have they do their own Christmas thing where they just they have like a tiny little shitty Charlie Brown tree, and they get high and they like give each other presents, and they give each other the same present, which is like a brand new lighter or something,
Yeah.
Just yeah.
I think it's a very simple, fun, sitcom-y show.
Classic. Odd couple.
Plus,
I like it.
Who doesn't want to see young John Hamm and young
Donald Glover?
Obviously, we can't. It's impossible to do that now, but
not impossible. We could get that Marvel money, de-age them both.
De-age them both for a sitcom.
It's
got a $300 million budget for like a cheap sitcom because we de-aged John Hamm and Donald Glover.
Yeah. So expensive. But to also get those two very high-profile actors.
Yeah, no, it'd be...
And we're going to have each episode directed by Steven Spielberg. This will be the most expensive television show ever made.
Michael Bay. It's just massive explosions going on all the time in the background.
Yeah. The DA is a Transformer. With no explanation.
Optimus Prime.
It's Optimus Prime. He's like, I'm not really sure that we can handle this new caseload. We don't address it ever. But I really like Friend-in-Law. I'm glad you took the show and you did something fun with it. All right, do you want to do the outro and then pick the episode, or pick the episode then do the outro? It's up to you.
Let's do the outro and then pick the episode.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening to the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. I've been your host, Charles. Along with me has always been my co-host, Sarah, producer, co-pilot, gunner, navigator, orator, and podcasting associate, Jacob Gloth. If you like what you heard here and you want to hear more, please give us a like, a follow, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your dog, tell your cat, and remember, we will be here next week with a brand new televisual series you to imagine and enjoy. And that television series will be named... How many numbers do I have?
You have... Well, I told you previously that you had 2, right?
Yeah.
Because and they were both extremely hard.
Uh-huh.
Well, I've come up with some new titles in the time period. So now you have 5.
Okay.
And 2 are the extremely hard ones.
Extremely difficult ones.
Like nearly half a year now.
Yeah. I'm gonna say number 4. Give us number 4.
You avoided.
Yes! I will never pitch these shows.
This one's very simple. It is The Fridge.
The Fridge. All right. The Fridge. You got it. Well, thank you all for listening, and the next week's episode will be titled The Fridge. All right.